a useful tool to address issues of poverty, and in particular the impact of public interventions or NGO intervention on the predicament of the poor is through household surveys. Which means that, and this is an approach that we follow, you go to the field and you talk with people, but in a very structured manner. You randomly select villagers according to some criteria, and you have prolonged interviews around predetermined questions with the villagers. That we do in all continents, in Latin America, in Asia, and in Africa, on a varieties of issues that are related to poverty. For instance, in Burkina Faso, where we have a big project that is essentially funded, not only exclusively, but essentially funded by nopoor, we are looking at the issue of the intervention of an NGO program that tries to open up cooperatives or selling cooperatives and shops on food security, on the poorest villages in a very poor area of Burkina Faso. And this is a fascinating study, and in fact there haven't been any study of that kind so far, because it's really looking at the issue, what does happen when you activate a market where it does not exist? And here the market is people can buy food whenever they want and they decide to do so, instead of being forced to buy it only at a certain time because the market is very imperfect. And we show that this NGO intervention that acts through market activation, here selling food and purchasing food from farmers at all times, has improved the nutrition levels of the villagers. There are various effects, I have no time to enter into them, but this is the outcome. And we are able, because the data are very careful at the micro level, to highlight the mechanism through which it is true. Another study which is going to household survey in the same line is one which we conducted in Peru, in Caramarca district. Again, very poor area, very remote area in the highlands, people living in very difficult conditions. And we try to see the impact of an NGO intervention that try to activate technological diffusion market through local catalysts that diffuse new technologies. And we try to understand to what extent it works, to what extent there are some barriers against adoption of these new technologies. And again, the conclusion is that it had a major impact. A third study that I could mention is using household survey, which is again within the framework of the nopoor project, in Senegal, southern Senegal, in fact, about female genital mutilation, in which we try to see the impact of an NGO, a big NGO, well-known NGO, on the reduction of female genital mutilation through the actions of the NGO. The NGO had a very precise idea about how to go about it, how to empower women, for instance, and the idea was to look whether this strategy of the NGO had an impact. And here our conclusions are much less optimistic. In fact, we find that the impact is almost zero. And that if there is an impact, it can be even negative in the sense that there can be perverse effect, to the extent that women stick to the practice of female genital mutilation, but they do it on their daughters earlier than before to conceal the practice from sight, because they feel that no, there is an environment that is initiated by the NGO, but not only by the NGO, also by foreign government, international organization that is against female genital mutilation. And since they feel it is accustomed to it, they attach a lot of price and value, they try to conceal it, and this may have bad health consequences for the girls themselves. You see, my conclusion from all these studies is that we should avoid giving or trying to give broad policy implications or advice to donors. This is not possible. There is no kind of great panacea that is available for the donors. You have to speak very concretely with respect to concrete issue in specific countries and say, in this kind of context, in this kind of region, this is how we should do. And on this kind of particular problem. For instance, if you take the example of female genital mutilation, we know that to confront local culture in a kind of blunt manner doesn't work. So you should work in a more indirect manner.
Get informed. www.nopoor.eu